Well, it's about time to look at a new artist that has crossed my path. Every so often I get, well, I shouldn't say every so often, quite regularly I get reached out to by a band, but very rarely do I get reached out to by a band that I've already started listening to their music. And this is one of those cases. So, yeah, let's dive into this one. A Voyage, a Destination by Versa. So Versa is a duo from BC, Canada. You know, homeboys here. A duo from Matthew Dolmage and Ben Rancourt. These two guys have kind of come in here, and this is their third project. Their first one being their self-titled one. Second one coming out a couple years ago called The Decline and Fall of ... And now we come into a destination, a voyage and a destination. And what really kind of piqued my interest on this one was the talent that they have helping them out with this. We have Lars Fredrik Foiles helping them out on the first track of Pool of the Nyads, as well as Eric Gillette. And Eric Gillette has done some work with the Neil Morse Project and the Neil Morse Band. Also, I believe on Flying Colors, if I'm remembering correctly. And then on the last track, the fourth track, we have Marjana Semkina from her own solo projects, but also with I Am the Morning. Love her vocal works. Has such a heavenly and beautiful voice, as well as Jim Gray and Nick Dervergilo. And Nick really doesn't need any introductions. His work with Big Big Train and Spock's Beard, and his most recent project with Neil Morse and Ross Jennings from Haken. So yeah, Versa has pulled in some big names to kind of help them out with this album. The other thing that really piqued my interest were the beginning track and the ending track. This album only has 4 tracks, are quite lengthy. The first one, The Pool of Nyads, I think it is at 15 minutes and 30 seconds long. So it's its own little mini epic on that sense, mini. And the last track at 26 minutes, almost 27 minutes. And I've been ready for a good long epic. I feel like this year we've had a few, like maybe 1 or 2 really good epics, but we really haven't had like that really big standout epic yet. And then in between Pool of the Nyads and the last track of Voyage, we have Sea of Vapors and Lantern Season, both at about 5.5 minutes long. So yeah, what can we expect on this album? Well, this album is overly quite mellow. You know, it's very sweet. It's very lovely. It's very like, soundscapey in that sense. You know, we have a lot of really, really beautiful and rhythmic ideas on here. It's reminding me something of like Lunatic Soul from Martin Dudaz from Riverside. And the one thing that these guys do really, really well is building up their songs, you know, creating really beautiful soundscapes. The first track, as I mentioned, Pool of the Nyads, really does take its time to build itself up very well. You know, even though they never really reach that point of like blow down the doors, head banging your way to it, the very optimistic and very beautiful sounds on it. It reminds me of some of the things that Marillion was doing in the mid 2000s with albums like Happiness is the Road and Marbles. You know, it's taking that more mellow and impressionistic side of things and really allowing that to be the forefront stage operators, really building itself into an extremely beautiful ending. And the 2 middle tracks, Sea of Vapors and Lantern Season, kind of follow the same structure. You know, you have a lot of picking on the guitar, providing the main rhythm and the main thoroughfare of the track. Sea of Vapors has a brilliant and beautiful violin that's streaming this through, where Lanterns of Seasons has this gorgeous synthesizer to play accents to a lot of the things that the guitar is doing. And finally, Voyage, as I mentioned, almost that 27-minute epic that's on here. I love how, even though this track is still quite mellow, you know, it's still kind of rooted in that mellow atmosphere that we have discovered up until this point, around the 10-minute mark, it does do this really brilliant and beautiful explosion. And I think part of that might be Nick's drumming that's on here and his influence and kind of dynamics that he brings to the table on that case. It has almost this Big Train flavor to it, like how Big Train is able to really bring about this really beautiful punch of explosion. But it slowly kind of winds itself back down once we get to the midpoint of this album, that then allows the track to build itself back up again. I will say, I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a criticism, but more of an observation. The latter half of this track is a little bit of a slow burn in that case, and it never really brings itself up to anything substantial. You know, like it does have this sense of a play out to it, but it feels much more like a whimper rather than a bang at the end of it. I wish that they had really kind of had this really crystal clear idea, and almost if they had swapped the beginning point with the end point, I think we would have had something really special on our hands on this one. Instead, it's still like very pleasant and very exciting, but I'm not as engaged at the end point. Now, I will say Mariana comes on at the end point. Her vocals just bleed and drip beauty, very similar to what she brings to the table with I Am the Morning, and that does round off with this very hauntingly beautiful ending. But I was kind of hoping for a little bit more of a optimistic ending rather than a whimper of an ending in that case. That would be like my only big criticism of this album, because I know the boys can do it. You know, I know that the boys can do it. They put it on with Pool of the Nyads. They did it at the beginning of Voyage. I was just kind of hoping for something a little bit more grand in scale at the end. And it doesn't even have to be that big blow down the doors idea that we would have had, but something that ends with a really nice and satisfying crescendo, something to build towards, I think would have made this album really special. But in the end, I still had a great time with it. You know, I have come back to this album a lot more than I thought I originally would, just with the atmospheres, the very pleasant ideas that are found on here. This is definitely a very pleasant, like late afternoon album to really help kind of round off the day, especially in a work day, or if I'm doing chores, or if I'm editing my videos. This is a great album to have in the background in that sense. So yeah, it's for that reason that I'll say A Voyage, A Destination by Versa is still one that I would download. You know, there's still enough on here that I would want to come back to, and I have come back to. You know, this is one that I would want to have with me as I'm going through a walk in the woods. You know, I want to take it with me, so I'll download it onto my MP3 player and have a walk out there. But yeah, I don't know if I would come back to this quite enough to like pick it up in physical format. So that's kind of where I'm at for this one, and I hope you guys will check this one out. You know, this is something that has something very special on it, and I'm really excited to see where Versa goes from here. And I gotta support my Canadians, so there you go. That's what I've got for A Voyage, A Destination from Versa. What did you guys think about this album? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. And that's all I've got for you guys today. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.